SG in animal husbandry.
You got the program? No, thanks.
It's a pleasure to be among so many of our fellow small states and Commonwealth partners as we look to make our critical contribution to the week of discussions at the 20th Conference of Commonwealth Education Ministers. Allow me to begin by welcoming you all to Fiji, in particular those of you who have not been here before. Bulla and welcome, in particular to the Small State Ministers meeting. Fiji and many of the nations represented here today have stood together on many occasions to put our perspective at the forefront of great challenges facing sustainable development. And our unified efforts have impacted serious change on the global stage and delivered real tangible good in the lives of our respective citizens. Last year, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we actually hosted the first ever UN Conference on Oceans and presided over the UN climate change negotiations as the President of COP23. On both issues, our leadership brought the stories, struggles and experiences of small states to the helm of the global campaigns to protect our oceans and limit the great devastation of climate change, which affects us all. In both the leadership roles, we're deeply appreciative of the support afforded to us by our fellow Pacific Island nations, small states, and indeed our Commonwealth partners. We all know that regardless of our level of development, as small states, we are faced with shared challenges like geography and resource availability, and we're increasingly vulnerable to some of the great crises facing humanity, particularly degradation of our oceans, desertification, and of course climate change. While we share many of the same challenges as fellow Commonwealth nations, we also share language, values and traditions that can actually accelerate exchanges of information and make our ideas and experiences more relevant for one another. And we need and can do a lot more of sharing information. And through collaboration, we can share the path to various solutions. In Fiji, for example, we made education free for the first time in history. We're providing our students with free textbooks, subsidized transportation to schools, and recently we massively expanded access to merit-based scholarships and affordable tertiary education loans and made those programs far more tailored to students' needs in the modern education space and to the future needs as contributors to our growing economy. We are, of course, rebuilding schools across the country after sharing information with the Minister from Tonga. The cyclone we had in 2016, over 225 schools were damaged. 95% of all the schools that we are rebuilding, none of them actually even had a architectural plan or engineer certificate. So now government is actually rebuilding. It's costing us over $200 million and we yet to complete all of them. It's taking quite some time. So we have to obviously build back better. We have to make sure that it's climate resilient standards, in particular in this part of the world, and to be able to ensure that the structures that we put up are actually more conducive to a good educational environment. We're of course moving along with merit-based pathways to promotions with the teachers. We're working to resolve administrative issues. A lot of the structures still a hangover from our colonial days, the way that administration was done. We need to relook at that. We're working through that at the moment. We of course look forward to hearing from all of you delegates about the policies and ideas which have worked in your countries and which haven't. How we can deepen the personal connections of those in the room today, as well as our government-to-government ties, and how we can best insert our perspective in the larger discussions throughout the week. The other reality, of course, that we have to face is that discussions among the bigger and more well-resourced nations often focus on strategies perhaps more suited to larger populations and their larger education systems, and even indeed perhaps larger budgets. And without our full contribution in those discussions, we can often find ourselves with outcomes that can only serve to exacerbate problems we already face in small states, particularly with regards to deepening educational and digital divides in our societies. What also makes our own contribution so important is that our experiences in small states, often on the front lines of challenges to sustainable development, means we are on the cutting edge of policies, programs, partnerships and innovative ways of thinking to help us attain the SDGs in education and indeed elsewhere. Our schools and places of learning are having to rapidly adapt to new and emerging trends to ensure as many of our people as possible have access to high quality and relevant education while also building resilience across our education systems. We look very much forward to the recommendations that will emerge from our sessions here this morning and to working alongside all of you throughout the 20th CCEM to speak loudly and together on the issues of the greatest importance to our development and the education of our citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much. And I wish you a good day. I have to leave after this because I have to attend a youth forum, but I'll join you later on. But we look forward to seeing you again this afternoon at the opening session. We have the Honourable Prime Minister who will come across, and we have a bit of a ceremony where we'll be not just according the traditional ceremony that will be highlighted, but also the drua or the canoe that will land on the beach, which is symbolic of the participation of Fiji and indeed all the other countries in the COP23 negotiations that we've had. So thank you very much, and I wish you a good day. Kanaka, thank you.
Coming.
Thank you very much for saying this.